Kirsten and Mark. Kirsten and Mark. Did you see that?
Recording. mm, 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 mm. Hi, Mark.
Yes, hello. It's good to see you.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
Not how have you been? Because we've already checked in prior to kind of starting this, so I don't want to do a false check-in. But let's get into we're talking about a new thing this week. We finished our last movie that we watched, which was a Netflix joint. And we started a new experience. But before we get to that new experience, are there any other things that you want to hit? I've got a couple, but I want to let you get us going because I can be long-winded. Any other things you want to chat about?
I made some eggplant the other day.
Did you?
Yeah. I didn't perfect it, but it was a good first step. I don't know what the right term is. I think it is called Chinese eggplant. So it's a little slimmer than maybe the typical eggplant you see at the store.
Yeah.
I think it's called Chinese eggplant.
That makes sense. There is a Chinese eggplant, I do believe.
Yeah. And so I made that, and I made a sauce with it. I think the sauce that I made should have been both sweeter and spicier. So I should have added more sugar, and then I don't know if I had some little spicy peppers to add in, that would have been good.
How did you?
I think
how did you prepare everything? How did you cook the eggplant?
Yeah, so I took the eggplant, cut it up into pieces, and then I let it sit in salt water for about 15, 20 minutes. And I took some cornstarch and tried to dust it in cornstarch. I don't know if I did it well enough, but tried to. And then did an initial pan fry of the eggplant, and then took that off the pan. And then I added some ginger and some minced garlic to the pan and cooked that. And then I added in the eggplant back in, and then I added in the sauce that I made, which was kind of this not very well calculated combination of soy sauce, sugar, cornstarch, water, salt. Is it hoisin sauce? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, hoisin sauce. Yes.
And some sesame oil. And so I mixed that up and then added that back in there. It was pretty good. I think I overcooked the eggplant to the point that I got a little mushier than I wanted. I was trying to get it to crisp, but I don't know if I did that correctly. Anyway, I was inspired. So, where we ate at, Northern China Eatery on Buford Highway.
Yes.
Yeah, their eggplant is so good. And I was trying to recreate it, but the recipe that I was going off of, it didn't match their sweetness. And maybe I can't remember, but I feel Northern China Eatery on Buford Highway, I think in addition to the sweetness, I feel they also put little peppers in there for pops of spiciness. At least that's what I remember.
Yeah. And there's red chili oil as well, which is often used in correspondence with a sesame seed oil in Asian cuisine, or just in people with extra wonderful sense of flavor levels, right? I tried to throw too many words at that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So making that was good. It was fun. I didn't have any bok choy with me, but I would have liked to have also had some bok choy, because I like the color of bok choy. I also like the taste of it, and I also like how it kind of blends with the eggplant, just the taste wise. But I didn't have any, so but it was easy to make. I think cooking the eggplant part was actually pretty easy. It's more so just kind of like nailing the sauce, honestly. And the sauce is what I was kind of least calculated on. So if I were to do it again, yeah, like getting some red chili oil. Is that what you said, red chili oil?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like getting some red chili oil and like getting a little bit more sugar in there or something like that, just making it a little sweeter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think just nailing the sauce. I put in too much soy sauce as well. So then I had to add water to kind of like dilute the saltiness of it some.
Yeah.
So it worked out fine, but because I had to add the water, it kind of changed the texture of what I was going for. It was fine. It was fine. I wasn't like disappointed, but it was just like, when you got a specific taste in mind of what you're going for, even if what you make is good, you're just like, that's fine, but this wasn't what I was like aiming for. So that's right.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love hearing you talk about cooking because I love cooking, and I'm like, yes, Mark, cook. Mark, cook. Mark. I sound like a learn to read book. I have a few follow-up questions.
Yeah, sure.
I love follow-up questions.
Yeah.
I love how it sounds like you prepared it. You mentioned wanting it to be, or maybe wanting it to potentially get to a crispier version. Do you have an air fryer?
I don't know, but that's a good suggestion.
Huh. Neither do I, but I hear that gives you that crispy sensation. Taste-station.
Yeah.
You like that, right? Yes, Dr. Seuss, push through.
And the reason I was going for the crispiness, just to like further answer the follow-up, is just the recipe I was going off of that like eggplant will be kind of crispy. Now, the times I like Chinese eggplant at a restaurant, I can't recall it ever really having like a crispy flavor or crispy texture because of the sauces in there. It's not like it's soggy, but it's like soft. I would not ever describe it as crispy. Yeah. So I don't really know. I don't really know if the crispiness was really even going to be possible with the sauce that I added in.
You could also potentially fix it almost like you would a fish stick, and if you approach your sauce with like thinking of the ratios beforehand so that you don't have to use the water, because I hear you with that water and how it kind of changes the texture of what you were aiming for.
Yeah.
Sneaky little water will do that to your sauce. Yeah. You could potentially not worry with that water, towel dry, like paper towel dry your eggplant into like slices or sticks, roll an egg, and then maybe roll in your flour, then maybe a breadcrumb of sort, put it on a baking dish covered in foil, pop that in the oven, and see how that turns out. Let's talk about that. Yeah. And then use your sauce as a dipping sauce, as you would a fish stick with ketchup, so that you get that crispiness and the wonderfulness of what it sounds like that sauce is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's great.
Oh my gosh. Follow-up suggestion for that more sweet, but also a little spicy. I love marinating / fermenting, pickling my own things. Don't think, no, she's about to give me a pickling suggestion. No. I see that is not the goal. But for the first thing, you could take some, and they might sell them already, but you can just make your own semi-homemade style. Buy some like jalapeno peppers or whatever pepper spice level of your choice.
Yeah.
Buy a pepper slightly hotter than what you're aiming for, because of my next step suggestion. You're going to cut those up into little slices. Get rid of most of the seeds unless you want some serious spice. But I would get rid of most of the seeds if you're going to add that red chili oil anyways, because that'll do your spice. But jalapenos, slice them up, get rid of those seeds, soak them in honey. Let them kind of marinate in honey for however long you want. The longer you let them soak in the honey, the sweeter they're going to be, and the more they'll dilute the heat. That's going to give you a beautiful sweet heat that you can chop those up and add it to the sauce, or throw it in the skillet to add that pure sweet spicy to cook with whatever is in the skillet, if you do a skillet version.
That's great. So you like chopped up pepper and you just kind of like set it in honey and then just kind of like scoop that into the sauce and make the sauce when I'm stirring it.
Yes. And if you do it over heat, it might help marry the flavors a little bit more, but you could also just whip it in a bowl to kind of mix the flavors together. Heat just does something chemically to them that'll marry them a little bit more for you, but totally up to you. I love cooking.
Yeah. Did you do anything this week that we were?
I think your space signal broke up a little bit, but I think the question was, did I cook anything this week?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, looking at my kitchen as if I can see through the wall. Technically I can, because there's like a cutout so I can like see my cabinets. Do you ever do that? You like look at a thing to help you jog your memory?
Yeah.
What are
I literally retrace my thoughts in the
Yes.
same way that I would retrace my steps. If I can't remember something, I like, well, what was the last thing I thought about? What was the thing that I thought? Yeah. So I'm there.
Anyways, that's why I think I looked at the kitchen, because I was like, did I? I ate a lot of fruit since the last time we had an episode. Did I cook anything? Oh, I didn't really cook this. It was just like boiling it and seasoning the water, which is not, yes, I guess that's cooking, but not cooking. I like to buy smoked turkey, like legs, pre-smoked and pre-cooked and just smoked and wrapped, usually 2 per, but they're pretty sizable. You just boil them in some water, some salt and pepper, maybe some garlic powder, onion powder, whatever, but you could just salt and pepper and water. And it's really delicious. You kind of just boil it, and the smoked turkey meat, it adds its own fat in the water. It's still kind of healthy. So moist when you boil smoked turkey. Oh, delicious. And it falls off the bone. So I had some smoked turkey, which was just delightful. Yeah, just like smoked turkey, fruit, oatmeal, cereal. So I didn't cook a whole lot this week. I really do feel like I cooked something that I'm just forgetting. Anyways, let's see. Oh, are you a Katy Perry fan? No judgment.
Not really. So no, not. I mean, I've liked some of her songs, but I'm not like aware of her what she does generally.
Yeah. Hey girl, hey Katy Perry. I would probably check the box of Katy Perry fan. I mean, no one's perfect. She's not like my top 5 or anything. I'm probably not her top 5. She probably doesn't even know who I am, so that seems fair. But I do enjoy her music. She makes catchy stuff, and I like her big, bold, this is who I am kind of style. Anyways, her and Orlando Bloom have been like on again, off again, a little like a celebrity drama dish. You're like, this is not my thing.
No. Keep going. Do you think? Yeah.
Anyway, it's just like front of mind because she just dropped a new album, I think this week, and I heard that on Spotify on the channel I think we both listen to, which is The Daily Drive, where you hear a little bit like an NPR, up first, a combination of maybe new releases or songs that you have liked or engaged with on Spotify before. Hey, not sponsored, but as always, shout us out. We a baby channel, but we looking for grown-up sponsorship. Anyways, she dropped an album, and she and Orlando Bloom have also been an on again, off again couple for maybe since 2010-ish, maybe 15, 14, somewhere in there. But they're back together, and they just had a baby, and it's super exciting. I'm excited for her, for them. I don't know if I'm as big of an Orlando Bloom fan, whatever. But her album and her baby both dropped this week.
That's great.
Yeah, I was like, yes.
What? And I mean this genuinely. I'm not saying like in a negative way. Like, what has Orlando Bloom kind of like been in more recently? Because I remember there was a time where I was watching him all the time with the Lord of the Rings movies and the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and he was like kind of like a swashbuckler there for a period of time, just because he was always like in movies with, you know, sword fighting, and I know he still does stuff. I just am not as aware of it. You have.
I will say, you just said the two things I was going to say. Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm sure he has done more than those two franchises or whatever series of movies. I'm not sure I can say I can list any more, though.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now. He's in. I've actually seen part of this. He currently stars in the Amazon Prime video series Carnival Row that came out in 2019.
About the magical creatures kind of living in kind of burrows and kind of storyline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I didn't ever hit play on that, but I did see it on my like Amazon Prime account on my TV.
Yeah, I watched the first part of the first episode. I should probably go back. I mean, it seemed interesting. Yeah, I was kind of reading up on that. Yeah.
What else did he do?
He is also, let's see, filmography. There we go. So you know, oh wow. So Lord of the Rings, and I know we're talking about other than Lord of the Rings, but I'm looking at his filmography, at least like the movies that he's done. And Lord of the Rings, at least according to Wikipedia, so I'm going off of Wikipedia, not IMDb. You know, Wikipedia isn't always 100%.
Don't tell me that was his first movie.
It's his third movie. And his second movie, Black Hawk Down, came out in the same year. So it's just like...
Yes.
So, I mean...
I saw that. That was a good one.
Yeah. So Lord of the Rings is like... So basically, he's been sword fighting since the beginning. You know, like...
What was the first one?
This movie called Wild. And Wild is a 1997 British biographical film directed by Brian Gilbert, starring Stephen Fry in the title role. Yeah, and it looks like maybe he had a smaller role in this one because he's credited as Rent Boy. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I kind of don't really know the way that, again, Wikipedia, it is what it is. But his credit when you go to cast on this movie, he's listed at the very bottom of the cast. So it sounds like he maybe had a really small role.
That was maybe like his first big-ish role that was notable enough to make it onto his history of professional experience, I guess.
Yeah. And then Black Hawk Down and Lord of the Rings came out the same year, so that may as well have been like his Lord of the Rings may as well have been like his second or third movie, pretty much.
Holy.
Yeah. I'm just gonna kind of go through like ones that jump out to me. So he did Lord of the Rings. He did the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So we mentioned that. He did Troy, which was that really big movie back in 2004.
Yes! Oh my God!
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. Not because it was a cinematic masterpiece. Not at all. Please don't get my words twisted. Don't understand me. Don't misunderstand me. I loved it because I love like history and kind of historical fiction spin-offs and like Greek gods and goddesses, and like I love so many things. That is one of them. Helen of Troy, girl, where you at? Let's make a movie about you. But you Black. We all know that. Black is that most beautiful. That's why they fought over it. They don't want you to know. Anyways, I do remember that movie. Yes, he was in that.
Yeah. And then Kingdom of Heaven. I remember seeing that in the theaters. I mean, he's in a bunch of other stuff. I don't necessarily recognize all of it, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna name out some random ones. The Good Doctor. I didn't see, but I heard about it.
Wait, is that listed as a movie, or is he listed as being on an episode of that show?
This is in his filmography, so I believe that this is a movie, and he played Dr. Martin E. Blake. Yeah, it's a thriller film. He in 2011 he was in the Three Musketeers. So when the sword fighting trend continues, he popped up in The Hobbit again as Legolas.
Wait, how long? I'm sorry. As someone who doesn't know that world as well, I've seen The Hobbit and like at least some of the other tales in that film situation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say Legolas? Is that his name?
Legolas.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did I miss a bro named Legolas? Did you ever see that old school show, maybe HBO movie called Kids? About like, not bad kids, but like, was Leonardo DiCaprio in that as a young man? Something. It's called Kids, but it's about kids who are out there like skipping school, doing things. They just out there living life, having fun. It's not about like bad kids, but they are out there doing some things that like you should be at school, or where is your parental supervision? But there is this one boy on a train and one shot in the movie. He doesn't have any legs, and so when you said Legless, I was like, oh, Legless, the bro from the train. He was like, and he sings a song because he's on a skateboard on the subway when them kids get on there and see in the movie. And he's like, I have no legs. I have no legs. It's probably not quite as catchy. The artist in me had to give it a tune.
I glanced at the rest of his filmography, and he's definitely like been in other things. And it also, I think around the time the Lord of the Rings and the Pirates of the Caribbean, like when that first wave of movies kind of ended or wrapped up, my movie making, movie attendance, like watching movies kind of went down a little bit. And for the past like 10 years or so, I'd say, I've watched way more television shows than movies in general. So there's a bunch of stuff that he was in, but I'm like, I didn't know that this came out, or, didn't really recognize much of it. That being said, though, I mean, I think The Hobbit was in theaters as recently as 2014 or 2015. And then the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean is listed in 2017.
Really?
So it's, yeah. Let me double check that just to get like the dates. But when I go to his filmography, so The Hobbit, Battle of Five Armies, which he's in, came out in 2014, and then Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, that's 2017. So his so those franchises have still been going, and I don't know if Pirates of the Caribbean is necessarily like a dead franchise or not. Like I don't know.
Bet not.
Yeah.
I bet there's going to be if the world survives and when films like that, which take huge crews and casts, be made again, I do think there'll be another one.
Yeah.
Titled like The Boat Never Sinks. Something. All right.
Yeah,
So he kind of had maybe I don't want to say late in life, but like he got his big movie pretty soon after starting his career. But like many artists and actors, you and I know this well, there are 100 things that you do that nobody will ever see, know, or speak of prior to maybe your big thing. So with that said, considering Pirates and Hobbit came pretty early in his notable resume of a career.
Yeah.
And then he fell in love with Katy Perry, and love takes time to heal when you're hurting so much. We don't own the rights to that song that I don't remember who sings it or what it's called, but like, I just had to let it out my spirit. We know that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's see. You want to get into the new thing?
Yeah.
Because is this new topic of discussion a doozy? So for those of you who have just watched all that beginning part and you're like, what are they talking about? Those are all the other things that we hit prior to the main dish of our conversation each episode, which is talking about another thing we've watched or seen or whatever. The reason this show series is called Did You See That? So our most recent pick is a new one. This is our first episode talking about this. We, like probably many others, have recently watched and or started watching season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. Yay. So season 2 just came out on Netflix recently, within the last couple weeks, right, Mark?
Correct. Yeah. Looks like the original release date, again, according to Wikipedia, my friend, is July 31st, 2020.
Excellent. So that's the birth of season 2. And like so many Netflix situations, they give it to you all at once. They spoil us all. We love it. We hate it. So for those of you who have not seen it yet, spoiler alert. Don't listen if you haven't seen it yet, because we are about to spill some tea on season 2 of the Umbrella Academy. Yes, spilling the tea. So let's get into, before we get into episode 1 of season 2, Mark, do you think it's a good idea / do you want to give a general summary of what Umbrella Academy show premise is and a synopsis of kind of season 1?
Of course, yeah. I can give like a quick summary, background, and then anything that you want to fill in, we can go back and forth from that. So, yeah, so the Umbrella Academy, the first season, came out February 15th, 2019, so about a year and a half ago. And something that I found interesting about this is it started out as a comic, started out as a comic book. And it says it's written by Gerard Way. And I didn't know this, he's a member, he's best known as the lead vocalist and co-founder of the rock band My Chemical Romance.
Shut up!
I didn't listen to My Chemical Romance growing up, but I've definitely heard of them. And I was really impressed by that, just because it's just like, I know that people like that band a lot. And this comic book series, I felt like, is really well written, really like the concept is really cool. And so
did he rewrite an old version of a comic, an Umbrella Academy comic from way back, or is his version of this comic the only original version? So it's a fairly new comic?
My understanding, and I haven't read the original comic, but my understanding is that this is like his idea. So it came out, the original publication was between 2007 and 2013. It's an American comic book series created and written by Gerard Way. And so, so this is let's see. Oh, and it says after a hiatus, the comic book series returned in 2018. And a proposed 4th series is in development. So it looks like the comic is potentially still ongoing. I just thought that was like an interesting tidbit, that it was, created by a musician. The TV show was created by Steve Blackman and developed by Jeremy Slater. So it looks like he handed off the comic book to Netflix folks and they made it. But yeah. And so the show itself is set in like this alternate reality, I would say, of our world where like superheroes exist, is how I'd put it.
Is it an alternate reality?
It's also a good question. It's a good question. And it's a question I had about season 1 in particular, but we can kind of talk about that a little bit. But basically, on one day in like the 80s, I guess, you have 43 women, and this is kind of like, this is part of me, part of from Wikipedia, but you have 43 women simultaneously give birth despite showing no prior signs of pregnancy. And so then you have this eccentric billionaire who tries to buy as many of the kids as possible. So it's really weird, right? And
adopt, because they become his children.
Right, he does adopt them, but it's just like the way he kind of goes about it is just like how much you want for these kids. It's very, like, for him, it's very transactional, and that's the weird part. It is like, yeah. And so it's like this group of kids. Let's see.
And he gets how many? 7?
I think it's 7. Yeah, because there's 5. There's Luther. I'm just kind of going in my head. There's 5. There's Luther. There's Ellen Page character. There's Diego. There's Allison. There's Klaus. And then there's the ghost one. So yeah, 7. Yeah. And so they each have like these unique superpowers, save for one, Vanya. And so the billionaire raises them.
That's what they make you think. Because
right.
The truth is, they all have unique superpowers.
Right, for sure. But in season 1, it's just like 6 of the kids form the Umbrella Academy, and the billionaire like trains them and raises them in this very strict household with a robot mom and a talking monkey named Pogo. And during their childhood, they like are vigilantes, and they're world famous. But then as they grow older and into adulthood, they each kind of one by one split off. In season 1 is kind of like how they're reunited after the death of their father. And one of the kids, 5, is a time traveling superhero that comes back and rounds them all up together to try and prevent the end of the world. And this is the most spoilery part of season 1 anyway, if you haven't seen it. But Vanya, who throughout the whole season, you think does not have any powers for whatever reason, actually is immensely powerful. And due to a series of misunderstandings and also very real trauma that happened in her childhood, she inadvertently brings about the end of the world when she shoots a beam of energy into the moon, exploding it, and then that crashing debris falls down on the earth and blows it up. And so it ends with 5, the kid, rounding up everyone and time hopping them to a different place. And so that's how that season 1 ends. There's a bunch of other stuff that goes on. You learn a lot about the individual 7 children, but that's kind of how I would perhaps summarize that show.
That was such a good summary. Oh man, you bring so much balance to my life, Mark. I would still be in the first 10 seconds and scene painting my life away. That was so good. Yes, everything that Mark said. Let's see. I don't really think you left out like any key things because they're all going to get touched back on as we go through season 2, and we'll probably mention ties back to season 1 happenings. Mm-hmm. So I guess let's transition into now episode 1 of season 2, which opens with the end of season 1, which is like that end of the world. You see the beam of energy going into the moon. It explodes. A huge piece collides with the Earth, exploding and destroying it, and they time hop right at the last second. And Vanya, the one who causes it inadvertently through those misunderstandings and like her immense power that she doesn't even know exactly what it is until kind of the end of season 1, and still doesn't fully understand how to engage it. It just happens, and it's bad when it does. So they time hop, and she's passed out because it's such a big energy situation, and she's being held by one of the other super siblings, which I started calling them, but one of the other Umbrella Academy siblings. And then they all time hop to escape, to survive, to try to keep it from happening in a group time jump. But what happens is Five, who's time jumpy McGee, he jumps them all, but then they all land in different years in and around 1963 and on different days in and around 1963. So some on the same day, I think between 1960, 1961, 1962, 1963. And this is all just episode 1, you guys, and this is in the first few minutes of episode 1 in season 2. So if you're like, what, all this is happening? Yes, this is how it begins. As I spit on myself. No, the people are watching. And so the time hop is semi-successful, but they all individually drop into different days and times and years up until 1963. Time, they call him Five, the time hopper, power sibling. When his jump is the last one we see, and it's pivotal because it's in 1963 still. The original end of the world from season 1 is now not as big of a deal because there's a new end of the world happening in 1963 that Five time hops into in 1963. He sees the paper, says the Soviets attack, I think. There are tanks in the street, and they've all landed in these different times in the same town in Texas, I believe, and in the same alley. Unbeknownst to them, they've all been photographed through a window at the other end of this alley each time. So Five jumps, he sees the new end of the world being a world war that is very, very bad. You know immediately. And then you see montage or snippets of that day and of that end of the world where all the Umbrella Academy siblings are together fighting and using their superpowers, but still the world is ending because I don't know his name, Mark, you'll have to help me out. They're the heavyset guy with the glasses from season 1, who I think worked for like the Time Bureau.
Hazel, yes.
Hazel. And maybe, and again, help me again, maybe he kind of sort of was a not so good guy in season 1 because of some of the choices he had to make in the role he was in. But by the end of season 1, he falls in love with like a super normal, non-superpower having, or in the time jumping business person, kind of turns his character around and becomes, he wants justice. He wants to stop the bad things from happening in season 1. Does that kind of wrap him up?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Hazel is partnered with Mary J. Blige in season 1, and you meet him. He doesn't want to do his job as like a hitman anymore, and so season 1 is kind of like seeing that kind of like complete transformation where he goes from hitman to sort of like savior of sorts.
Yes, because in the end of season 1, again, if you've not seen it, then spoiler alerts all over this baby. at the end of season one of the last scenes we see Hazel in is him trying to do this huge good action that's been led up to in season one of shooting the biggest, baddest chick in the Time Bureau agency, who's like the mover and the shaker of all the pieces or whatever. Very powerful lady who you see him shoot and you think, he killed her. Oh man, the bad guy or the bad person, equality. The bad person is dead now. And that's kind of the last we see him and her in that scene. But now that we know a little bit about Hazel, and because he's not a superpower having human, he, working for the Time Bureau people with the hitman job, they have these briefcases that they use to travel through time. So he's in possession of one at the end of season one. So we see him show up in this like now new 1963 World War III apocalypse that Five has popped into. And as you see his siblings battling soldiers and like kicking ass in this other war situation, Hazel shows up, Time Hops shows up, says basically, Five, if you want to live, come with me. Very Terminator. Because it's like, what? But what about my siblings, my family? And he points up to the sky, and in true war fashion, there are nukes coming, nukes, you heard it right, plural, coming down, about to hit them. And things are about to get real bad in a way that they cannot stop or battle or fight. And so he's like, Hazel's like, Five, you have to come with me in order to even have an opportunity to save your family. So right before the nukes hit, they jump, Hazel and Five, to, I think, 10 days earlier in 1963. I think 10 or 11 days, I think. Something like that. Same street, same city, same street, same everything, just on a bench across the street or something. Mm-hmm. And you see the scene continue, and there are two of them, Hazel and Five, sitting on a bench with that aforementioned briefcase that brought Hazel there. And he's basically filling him in. Hazel's filling Five in on like, that's the new apocalypse. It followed you when you guys jumped, and this is what it looks like now. You gotta fix this. It happens in 10 days. And he knows it's the truth because Five has just jumped into it, right? Five knows what's up. And so Hazel's helping him put the pieces together and saying, you got to find your siblings. You guys have got to fix this. They're all here somewhere in time, somewhere in this town. Like, you got to find them. And then a bus pulls up in this like small town, 1963, catty cornered from the bench that they're sitting on. I don't know why they are not more situationally aware in the roles that they play in this world that this movie takes place in. They are just not even paying attention, because this bus pulls up to the bus station, and I've been calling them the three bad bros. They all kind of look similar. They're brothers of their own. They don't have superpowers, but they also work for that kind of bad Time Bureau place that Hazel was working for in season one. But they're like, give no F's, kill who they need to. They are hitmen. They get the job done, and they are a three-brother team. So chances are high that they're going to kill their target. Their target, clearly in this moment of the episode, is Hazel and or Five. Maybe both, because they're hopping around time. And that's what this place does, is they keep bad things from happening due to messing with time. So I guess good intentions, but their impact is like just killing people who are in the way and causing trouble. And so they open fire on Hazel and Five sitting on this bench. Split second before they open fire, Hazel sees them, looks up, sees them, is like, oh shit, knows what's up immediately, slides something into Five's pocket, shoves the briefcase at Five, says, "You got to get out of here," or something to that effect. And then the shooting starts because Five has the briefcase now. It's bulletproof and magic and time jumpy, right? So he's not shot, but Hazel is. Hazel dies on the bench. Let's pour one out for our homie Hazel. And Five, yeah, let's pour one out. Yes, this has a lid on it. Yes, not sponsored by Vitamin Water, but 50 Cent, hit us up. Yes, sponsorship. Five dashes behind a car, and then once he catches his breath, it's not just that he can time hop, but he can hop to where he can see type thing, almost like what's the X-Men who can like hop in time? He's like covered in tattoos, and they found him in the church. He's blue or like, anyways, it's not just like he can.
I only like 2 or 3. I know like Wolverine.
Oh, Nightcrawler! It's Nightcrawler! I know stuff. I'm so surprised that came to me. But similar to Nightcrawler, Five can hop through time and just like over there. Through time and space, one will say.
Yeah. Oh, I guess maybe just speaking of like Five's ability to time hop. So you'll notice Five has the appearance of being a little kid, even though he's a 58-year-old man. And the thing was, when he was a little kid, he had always wanted to play around with time hopping. And his dad would always be like, "Hey, be careful with that. Don't know what you're doing. Hop somewhere, you might not be able to come back." And so in season 1, Five time hopped to the end of the world and had to live there in solitude for 50 plus years, or maybe not 50 plus years, but
a long
time. And that, so that does a lot to somebody. So just the whole time hopping thing with him is just kind of interesting in that it kind of separates him, I think, from the rest of the siblings, because he's lived this whole other lifetime that they have not yet lived. In addition to that, I think it kind of complicates the relationship with his dad, because like the whole reason that, Five is a kid and so much older than everybody is because he kind of did the one thing his dad told him not to. So, yeah. So Five is a little rough around the edges, but understandably so. He's never in a good mood. So.
Yeah, he's always a little cranky, and I think that's such a good point because of when his initial time hop was that one that he time hopped to the post the end of the world and just was there in solitude for so long. For anyone who hasn't seen it, who wants a like age context, little kid is in not like 5 or 6. He's like the appearance of maybe an 16-year-old, in almost like a private school outfit that he's just in all the time. But to Mark's point, he has lived a lifetime already. So he has lived the life of a Silver Surfer, if you will, someone, 65 and AARP, gentle person. So he has knowledge, and he doesn't have time for things he doesn't have time for, because the gift and the curse of being able to time hop is that you don't have the time as much as you do, which is like an interesting little point. And also, just piggybacking on your point, because he has the knowledge and seemingly one of the like hard-hitting powers, meaning like a big one that is, if you were to rate them, I think that one would be pretty close to the top. But they still visually and maybe metaphorically, the other siblings and his family members see him as a child because they've not lived all these other years of life, and physically they look older than him. And when they engage with him in the real timeline, they are seemingly older because they're aging at a rate of typical time. which are just some very interesting points I thought of when you mentioned that very good point of Five and his appearance and his life knowledge.
Mhm.
Let's see. I love that my Fire Stick is just doing what it wants. It's like installing the latest software. Never done that before. I mean, it updates the apps, and that is so strange. I'm like, okay, we all live in a world of robots, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much. Pleased to be here. Please take care of everything that's happening.
Yeah. Now's definitely the right time to be like on the good side of robots, you know?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
My AI will love me and I will love it. Thank you very much. We are a team. Anyways, so sorry for the distraction. I was like, what is happening? So Five escapes the three bad bros, hops to the top of a building on this same area of town, of the alley, of the bus stop, but he hops to the top of the building where the three bad bros don't see him. They know he's jumped. They know they didn't get him, but they don't know where he is. So they're like skulking through town looking for him, and three bad bros do. And then he hops back to that alley, which again is just like kind of around the corner, but where he knows it's safe to hop to. He sees a rustling in the curtains when he does that hop back to that aforementioned alley that they all showed up in. And that rustling of the curtains makes him go like, someone's up there, let me investigate. He does a little investigation, finds the unit in that building, kind of knocks. A guy opens and it's like, what do you want? Right? Already like dripping, I'm a conspiracy theorist and I'm the one who's looking at you through the window. You can tell this is the one. He knows that this is the guy. He doesn't really know anything about him yet. But guy answers the door, real like, what do you want? Five gives him some, I'm selling cookies for my Boy Scout group or something, some tactic. But the guy shuts the door on him and he's like, oh, you don't know who you're fucking with. He doesn't say that, but basically he jumps into the apartment because he can do that. Yes. And the guy's like, oh man, what are you? And because it's 1963, everyone's scared of the Soviet Union, I guess. And he's like, are you with the Russians? Or the, right? Conspiracy theorists or whatever, what have you. Long story medium with this whole situation. This is the guy that captured video or photography footage. There's like a TV and electronics store that's backed up into the alley in which they all were dropped into in that Escape the Apocalypse group time jump that they did at the end of season 1. So unknowing to them, this electronics guy has set up like all these cameras, like for when shenanigans happen in this alley. He's got pictures he's been keeping up over the years. And so when Five gets in there and this guy's like, who are you? I was like, gets to the point, like, I've been looking for you. I've seen you all. You're one of them, blah, blah, blah. But Five has just gotten here this day. And in reality, this is a lot of words. But for him, it's been like an hour in the movie world. So he engages with this guy. This guy ends up thinking, and he plays into it because he knows this guy's freaked out and just like probably has the information he needs. He makes him think he's an alien from like Area 51, which I love. Yeah?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Oh, I guess it's fair. I'm not even following my notes. I think we're doing such a good job. Just clipping right along. I was looking down for that guy's name. Is it the electronics store is called Morty's, but his name is Elliot, that guy, because he is gonna be in the storyline for a little bit. Is that right, Elliot?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember his name. Yeah.
I jotted it down. I doubted myself, but I think that guy's name is Elliot. So Elliot thinks Five is an alien and is like just excited to be involved. And has this like not a war room, but using the visual of like all the pictures of all of the Umbrella Company siblings that have arrived over the years and days. He has taken these pictures of, and they're up on his wall. There's like a whole chart. He has been watching, listening, waiting. He knows something is up. He didn't know what, but he knows something. Five gets the information he needs because we'll call him Elliot. Is like, here are all of them. How can I help you find your fellow people, your aliens? He shows him a clipping from a news article, and he thinks that the clipping of there's like a mugshot of someone who's been arrested for saying that JFK, because it's 1963, JFK is going to be assassinated, right? And people are like, he's crazy. But it's Diego, one of the Umbrella Company siblings. And Diego, I often refer to him, like in my own mind, as Knife Guy. But I think is it just that he's good with knives, or is it that he can avoid being hit? He's like agile. What's his exact superpower?
You know, Five has kind of like a disrespectful way of describing him in one of the episodes where he's just like, imagine Batman and then aim lower. And he says it in a mean way, but it is also accurate in the sense that it's like, he's Batman without all of the toys. That's kind of how I look at it. Is like, he sees himself straight up as like a hero vigilante. Like, he's that dude. He doesn't need anybody, and he like just dives headfirst into any fight. And I guess you could say that that's probably like his flaws. That he is maybe not always super aware of his limitations. But I mean, it's also admirable in the sense that he's always trying to do what he thinks is right, you know? And I guess I'd say, like, in addition to knives, you know, combat, acrobatics, like sleuthing to a degree, you know? So he'd be involved with, like, in season 1, he'd like help out the police department as almost kind of like a consultant of sorts with mysteries. So yeah. But it's humorous sometimes in the way that he, like, I don't know, and maybe it's just in this season, maybe it wasn't like this so much in the first season, but to me it feels like he kind of gets himself into trouble a lot, you know? Like, he's getting himself hurt a lot because he's just like, I just got to save everyone right now, and I can't slow down.
Yeah, he's got like, he rushes into danger for all the right reasons, but without considering any of the wrong ones. He's got quite the hero complex. He saves a lot of people often, but yes, he also rushes into trouble, gets himself into situations that he doesn't need to, because he doesn't always have the like forethought to think things through. He's like, I gotta do the thing, let's go.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a good point about the combat skills as well, because in this episode, World War III version of the apocalypse in 1963, you see him like get shot at by like multiple like people, and each of them has like machine guns, and he like spirals it through the middle of the bullets, and I'm like, is that your superpower? I feel like he got the heart of Captain Planet team equivalent of powers. They try to make it Vanya, but I really think it's Diego. He really got the heart power out of all of them. And he tries so hard, you know? I would have loved if he had like, and maybe this is in a different season, or maybe I missed this person, but like, speaking to animals, even though that's still kind of the heart thing, because the heart guy had that monkey in Captain Planet, but some bonus. They gave him a monkey in Captain Planet. They gave Diego knives. I just was like, I want more for him. He wants more for himself, but I want more for Diego.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Elliot shows Five the mugshot. It's Diego. It's basically saying he's been arrested and then has been put in a psych ward. So Five is like, oh my gosh, thank you. And the guy's like, oh my God, is that helpful? He's like, you have no idea. And he's like, 5 is out of there. He jumps out of there. Yeah, I think that's kind of the end of that encounter. He basically, Elliot thinks he's an alien, and so is so willing to help. We can tell we're gonna probably see him again. This is soon to be turning into where they will all gather.
Yeah.
Right? A safe place for them as they find each other or whatever. So Diego's in the psych ward. Uh-oh. And in 1963 with 2000 and whatever knowledge. I forget what year season 1 was, like modern, right? Closer.
I think so. The reason when I was watching season 1, I was kind of confused about like the year in reality sometimes was just like the use of technology, you know, like it just felt a little different. And I couldn't tell if that's because the billionaire dad that they had was just a weird eccentric person, but it just felt like the technology, it was like from the 60s. That's, I mean, I know that they're in the 60s right now, but that's why when I first watched the show, I was like, oh, this doesn't seem like our world just because technology is treated just slightly differently, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And there's a weird juxtaposition with technology that, I'm so glad you balanced me so much. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it brings to mind the idea that though the technology is approaching in a 1960s way, even in season 1, which is clearly not 1963, but as a watcher, you get this ambiguous element of time where, because of the technology, but also there's this world acceptance of superheroes and the idea of superheroes, not just the idea, but like they're out there, they're kids when they start superhero vigilante work, and the world is like fully accepting, similar to like the series on Amazon called The Boys, in a world where superheroes are fully accepted. Maybe that's why the ones in this world are still hiding. Anyways, the weird juxtaposition with technology that you made me think of, though, was because of their dad, that billionaire, kind of the human equivalent of Scrooge McDuck meets Inspector Gadget, maybe. They have that ape, that monkey that talks, and it doesn't just like talk, but like Planet of the Apes advanced language, can do trigonometry and combat, like monkey, not necessarily butler, but like family, part of the family, and the mother of the wife of the eccentric billionaire, who is the role of the mother for all of the Umbrella Academy siblings in season 1. I don't think we know it early season 1, but by mid and definitely by the end of season 1, you find that their mother is a fully functioning robot. And so there's that weird technology juxtaposition where you're like, what year is this? It feels like 2018 with the 1963 sauce, but with 2040 superhero acceptance and in-home technology only for a few. I like the layers, though. So Diego's in the psych ward. Before 5 goes to visit him, the scene jumps to a like psych ward shot of Diego in like group in group time where they're sharing, right, in the psych ward. Long story medium there. I don't know, like nobody believes him, of course.
We meet Lila, which is pretty significant in that moment.
Yes, tell us about Lila.
So, well, at least for the first episode, Lila is another person that's also in the psych ward with Diego. And I'd say pretty much from the beginning, they got like a romantic tension between them. That's kind of like, will they, won't they? And she's, I don't know, from my perspective, it's just like, she's just really interested in Diego.
Like she's always in his space. And I think Diego likes her as well, but Diego's kind of like on the whole, the whole Batman thing. Like, I have no friends.
Bless
Sorry.
you. You can still sneeze in space.
So yeah, and from the beginning, you just have a lot of questions about her because she's really smart, really interesting, but also has like this wild side, and you're like, what's she doing there?
Yeah, like, what's her story?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
I think that's an excellent synopsis. What was her name again?
Lila, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
The Lila character, and it's so true. You can tell there's like this connection and that there's a seed being planted for that very reason. And literally, I think most of Diego's psych ward scenes have her in them. Not all, not every single one, but most in this episode of the scenes with Diego in the psych ward have her in them or something adjacent, right? And she's like literally next to him in this group share thing. There's a shot where she sneaks bacon out of the, I guess, cafeteria and has stuck it out in her shoe after this group meet. And she's sitting next to him at another table and it's like trying to offer him bacon. And he's like not really into it. But again, we know that they are planting seeds as far as the storyline goes with these two. Yeah. So psych ward buddies.
Yeah.
Then Diego's told he has a visitor. He is surprised. I think it's probably his first one ever at the psych ward since he's dropped through time in this town where nobody believes him. Sounds like almost immediately he was put in a psych ward. And I don't know if it's significant. I think Diego has been there for like 75 days, something like that. At this point, when we first see him, I think it comes out somewhere in the dialogue, but something like that. 5 is there to visit him in the like little visiting room. He tries to catch him up and tell him what's going on, right? The apocalypse followed us. Now it happens in 10 days. Hazel was here. Now he ain't. We got to gather the bros and sisses and we got to do our thing. We've got 10 days. Are you in? And Diego's still stuck in this hero complex. His only goal, because he comes from the future, whenever that is, he knows that JFK gets assassinated. That's just like history. His only goal is to stop the assassination, which is what put him there in the first place, I believe. And so he is not interested in helping 5. He literally says, all right, I'll help you after I save JFK. And 5 was like, we don't have time for that. Cut it out, Diego. And so Diego, just so driven for his one mission, and again, no forethought to what else is happening, lets out the information that he is planning an escape. And he's been sawing away at the bars in his room, and he will be out in like a day or something. So because he's not listening to 5, and 5 is like, oh, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
He tells the psych ward guards who are like listening for safety reasons, he tells them Diego's plan so that he'll freak out and be like, no! And then that they'll have to inject him, and they do with like sleepy injection, some tranquilizer situation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 leaves him there. He's like, I'll be back for you, right? I don't have time for this. If you're not going to help this save the world mission, I got to just leave you here. I'll be back. He leaves him there. Oh, and I think I said it, but I think the Lila character. Oh, wait. maybe this was before Five came to visit. She was like, hey, if you're planning an escape, you better take me with you. Like, she drops that before the Five visit scene, which is like, okay, so we're going to have some type of escape soon. Okay, cool. Where does Five go after he leaves the ward?
Does he go to visit Luther? Is that where he pops up next? Like, do we see someone else? Like, do we check in on Vanya and her living
That's
on the
it.
farm? You know?
Yes, it goes to Vanya.
Mm-hmm.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, it's like a mix between like, yeah, we see Vanya. I guess we check in on everybody, but
we do. They go through and hit them all. I think the next one is Vanya and the farm.
mm-hmm.
Wait.
Either Vanya, Allison, or Klaus.
I think my notes go Vanya, Klaus, and then Allison.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically see, oh my gosh, because these are like the prologue to what they've all been doing, and when they dropped into town, you like learn the prologue and like what they've all been doing, their situations, and it's full of so many anchors and things that will have callbacks that I really think we're going to be able to do this one episode at a time.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, there's so much. Okay, so let's tackle one at a time. Let's go Vanya. I keep calling her Sound Sib because in season 1, like we touched on, she's made to believe by the father figure in particular, but by proxy everyone else, that she doesn't have a superpower. She doesn't go out on vigilante missions. She learns how to play a string instrument, the violin, I think. Nod to all the violas out there, like myself. But I think she grows up thinking she doesn't have powers, but she plays the violin. Because of her control over sound waves / energy, that's how the apocalypse comes about in season 1, that energy laser. But she doesn't remember any of that in season 2. So when we cut to her here in this episode 1 of season 2, oh, I forgot this part. Should have followed my notes. When Vanya, Sound Sib, landed in time from that group jump, remember, she was unconscious when they jumped at the end of season 1. She hits the ground literally from this time wormhole in the alley, hits the ground, and then is now awake and aware, but is out of it, hobbles out of the alley into the street, and almost immediately gets hit by a car. And you see the female, white female and white son, young boy, are the ones in the car who hit her. And that is important, and I forgot to mention it. Because when we cut to her now in the episode, she has been living with these people. They took the lady who hit her with the car, took her home, has been taking care of her. She's basically been absorbed into this farm family of this lady. Her son, who doesn't speak, his name is Harlan. Kind of a dickhead, 1963 style husband, just cooked the dinner. Let me tell you dumb jokes. You laugh when you know you're supposed to and take care of the children, right? We cut to this scene of like awkward dinner conversation, or kind of sort of. The mom comes home. Vanya is kind of like a babysitter, live-in babysitter. She doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember her name. She doesn't remember anything about her life.
Quick question about that.
Yeah.
Quick question about that. When she got hit by the car and she did not remember things, when she said that at first, just given how season 1 ended, did you believe that she really had lost her memory?
I think, yes, I did. I had a moment of, do I remember? Because when her power does engage, she's not in control in season 1 whenever it engages.
Yeah.
So, but when it does, and her not being in control, she's kind of like a different person with big bad superpowers, and don't get in the way, because she's not gonna remember. She's like drunk. She's gonna do bad things probably, and then she's not gonna remember when she's done. But baby, it's not your fault. You don't even know you got a power. So when it happens to her, she's like, what happened? And I think because Apocalypse causing season 1 energy sound control burst laser into the moon was so much, and her superpower had taken her over at that point. She was not Vanya fully anymore. She had used up a lot of power, so she was out of it. So, and I do believe that she didn't remember, and it's particularly as the episode and season 2 goes on.
Yeah.
It's clear that she don't even know her name. But you see this like beautiful little weird, unique, let's say, version of a family on this farm, 1963 small town, right? Seems quaint, kind, and the only bad thing seems to be like, that the son doesn't talk, so there's something there. They speak of fits that he has, but with Vanya, he doesn't seem to have them. They seem to get each other, whatever. The mom is so kind. The husband is like an a-hole, but typical 1963 style a-hole. That's just like the world he lives in. Nice enough, but definitely not the best guy.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward dinner conversation where he's fully mansplaining things, and it's just like, this is that life? And then he leaves after dinner to go back to work again, typical 1963, back to the office, which often means to boink the secretary and or head to the bar or strip club. We'll find out later where he goes, but I think those are the main things about, that is what they tell us about Vanya's prologue of a scene. That's what she's been up to. She doesn't remember anything. And again, is in a position where she has this immense power that she does not know she has. Again. Anything else on Vanya that you want to get in there before we move to Klaus?
No, I think with Vanya, the only reason I said that, as I was watching it, I was just kind of curious, like, what someone else was thinking when we checked in with Vanya, just because when she said, like, I can't remember anything, I as I was watching it, I genuinely wondered, it's like, I can see how you really want to forget what happened. And so part of me was wondering what was genuine and what was not. Because, I mean, it's just like, if I were Vanya and I got time jumped to 1963, I too would lay low and would want to, like, just try to start all over. Totally get that, she really didn't remember it, but just as a viewer, I was just kind of like, I was just kind of wondering that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, because in some stories, movies, shows, whatever, that is a purposeful thing that one does to lie low and not be accountable for whatever their last thing that happened was, the last life, the last town, the last whatever. So I see totally how you would think that. And I totally see how one would go, is she for real? But it seems like indeed she is. We next see what Klaus has been up to. I call him Ghost Bro. He's not the ghost one, but he's like the one that has Ghost Bro inside of him, because it's like two siblings in one in this character, because Klaus is, his superpower is that he can see and communicate and summon and control the dead. And because of that, in season 1, we know that there is a 7th Umbrella Academy sibling that was with them as young kids, but at some point, I think on a mission, because of a story plot point, I think one of the siblings did something on a mission, and the 7th sibling was killed.
Yeah.
But because Klaus can communicate with the dead, immediately, we don't see this scene, we see it later in season 2, but that is why that's that connection is there between those two siblings, because as soon as that sibling dies, Klaus can see and talk to him. Later in season 2, we'll touch more on a scene in which they clearly expand on the funeral of that sibling in particular, because it'll be important later. But here in this episode, we meet Klaus, and who we'll call him Klaus, and then I don't know Ghost Bro's name, but he is portrayed as a Asian American actor, super cute, and I'm like, yes. And you know he has superpowers, dead or not. He's still an Umbrella Academy sibling, so you know he's got superpowers. And I think we see them in season 1, right? Somehow, somewhere, even as a ghost?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's basically like tentacles that come out of his body.
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
Yeah, and can kind of like, almost like Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, but they come out and they're not small. They're not small. They're huge. They're like, they can go over there and get you and throw you where they need you to go. Pretty cool and scary. Anyways, we don't get a lot of it, but when we see it, it's cool. We see it a little in season 1. We'll see more of it in season 2. In this scene where we meet Klaus in season 2 and kind of catch up with what he's been doing, they're driving, him and Ghost Bro. And it's funny because all of their scenes are 99% together. Again, because Ghost Bro is dead, he's tied to Klaus metaphorically in the storyline because he's dead. And Klaus, what is it?
Ben.
Ben. Yes, Ben. Ghost Bro equals Ben. I'll put it up here. Ghost Bro equals Ben. The car breaks down that they're in. They get in an argument because we hear that Ghost Bro wants Klaus to go back to like San Francisco or somewhere. We need to go back. We need to go back. I need you to go back. And Ghost Bro and Klaus is like, you need me for everything, right? You're tied to me, right? There's this like status put in place by way of Klaus of like, you know you need me. Don't act like you don't. Klaus kind of thinks he doesn't get anything from Ghost Bro, even though Ghost Bro, again, still has Ghost Bro powers and helps Klaus fight. Anyways, they get in an argument. There's a little tension, bro tension. And I think this is the first time we see them in a real way. And it becomes clearest to me as a viewer that Ghost Bro is indeed Ghost Bro and only Klaus can see him, because in their argument, they get in a physical like wrestling fight. And this driver drives by the car that they were driving that's now broken down that they're fighting outside of. And the shot is from the driver's perspective. And you see Klaus on the ground with nobody, but in a full wrestle situation, but you only see Klaus. So I think that's pivotal that the viewer at that point, it's very clear that Ghost Bro is a ghost and only Klaus can see him. Right?
Yeah.
They walk to like some old hole in the wall bar on this like very not populated, not big city, rural road. Klaus is his getup is one that might attract attention in a small town, rural, what have you. The visual impact of that is known because he walks into this bar. You go, uh-oh, careful now. Asks about the next bus back to Dallas, because I think, again, that's where the original drop was, in Texas. He hears it's going to be some time, I don't remember how long, from the bartender. He then finds I
think the next day.
Something like that, yeah, not too long.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like what you would think is like not a good idea poker game happening inside of this small bar with some folks sitting at it that you go, hey bro, not a good idea, Klaus. But he then engages, and they're like, "You want to play some poker?" And he sits down and plays, and he thinks, correct me if I'm wrong, or share your thoughts, that Ghost Bro, since nobody can see him, is going to be like a pool shark card player and just stand behind the other people and probably just tell Klaus it's almost like a oopsie, not a oopsie daisy. I get sayings wrong sometimes, and it's really funny. Not an alley-oop, but like a gotcha, maybe a trick that twins would play all the time growing up. It seems like something he knows Ghost Bro might do, like maybe they've done it once or twice or a lot before. Yeah?
Yeah.
So a poker game happens. Klaus, with this in mind, listens to Ghost Bro, who is setting him up because, again, they just got in a small sibling dispute just moments before. And Klaus has made it known that he thinks Ghost Bro needs him and he doesn't need Ghost Bro.
Right.
So Ghost Bro sets him up and is like, he's bluffing to the bad guy poker player person. So Klaus leans into that advice, has the guy he's playing against put his keys in the pot. He puts this like gold necklace in a pot that he's wearing, but the guy was not bluffing like Ghost Bro told Klaus. So there's that moment of, you lose, give me all the shit. Klaus grabs the keys. He's like, it's time to go, Ghost Bro, and like gives a nod to Ghost Bro to like, do it now. And Ghost Bro like materializes so that the other people can see him, which is like, oh, cool, we're gonna see him kick some ass. And then he's like, nah, you don't need me, remember? And then he goes back away. I loved it, because we're just now getting to see Ghost Bro in this capacity. We didn't really see him almost at all. He was referenced. You know he exists in season 1, and you see him very, very little. So I'm loving getting to know Ghost Bro.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
I just really want him to materialize.
Yes, right? It's like they make you start waiting for it every time you see Ghost Bro. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, when he first appears in season 2, because it had been a while since I had seen season 1, until like the truck drives by and you see Klaus fighting with himself, I was like, oh, did Ben like materialize in the time jump in a way that like maybe I couldn't remember, and like the passage of time allow his body to materialize? So it wasn't until I saw that shot where I was like, oh, Ben is still very much a ghost and people can't see him. But yeah, the reason I wish he materialized is that, you know, he's always like very logical and measured in all the times that we see him, which is way different from all the other kids. And you can kind of see, and also it's just like when he died as a kid, that was kind of like the beginning of the end of the Umbrella Academy, as them all like being a unit together. That was like, well, I mean, he was dead, so quite literally that was the beginning of them splitting apart. But
and because they hint that it was one of their faults in some shape, form, or fashion, it causes a tension that's never been there as well, I think.
Yeah, and so I feel like his voice is missing from the group.
Yeah.
Because with him there, you know, I just feel like it would balance things out more. It's kind of like when you take someone off the team, the balance is off, you know. So
yeah. I'm thinking back to the when those two time jumped, because again they're visually anchored together in the storyline, so they did land in the alley together. Visually, the shot of them dropping in the alley, thinking back, you see both Klaus and Ben hit the ground in what the same clothes, right, that they were wearing. And he was a ghost before the time hop in season 1. So like your thought, like, did he materialize? Because you see him look the same, not ghost. Because when he's a ghost, intentionally in the shot, they make him like blue and translucent-y, right?
Yeah.
But when they're just like, when it's just a Klaus and him scene, they just look like two actors. And it's not until that car drives by or whatever, and you see Klaus wrestling by himself, that you really start to get that only he can see him. And he sees him in that way all the time when he sees him. But when Ben materializes as a ghost bro to be ghost bro and fight, it's this blue translucent thing. So they really make you work for clarity on that. And they make his death, though mentioned in season 1, very mysterious. You don't know the details. So you're like, what? Yeah. Yes. All right. So Klaus and Ghost Bro are now being chased out of this bar because Klaus has stolen this bro's keys that he was playing against. They run away. And I think they get away. Yeah. Let's see. And then we go to Allison, and then it cuts to Allison, and I love her storyline. Oh, yes. Alice, and I think it's important to say, or important enough to say, these are not like Mark's beautiful summary of like what the Umbrella Academy show is, and how these siblings came to be this like miracled 43 simultaneous births with no sign of like pregnancy prior to. So they're all different identifying genders, races, right? So Allison is the only Black female Umbrella Academy member / sibling. So #I'm biased. Rooting for everyone Black. So we cut to Allison's timeline, and again, it's 1963. So one might say things are far worse than they are today, but others might say things are exactly the same. I say all that to say Allison's timeline, you see her when she drops into the alley originally. Her throat has been cut. That's right. Also, question for clarity on this point that I clearly am just surprised by and forgot to say. I think they all heal with superpower speed. Is that correct? Am I correct with that?
A little later, she says, I think that she couldn't talk for a year. Do I remember that correctly?
I do. I know she said later in this season she chose not to for at a certain time, but I also think she did have to heal also. And because she had never gone that long, because we'll say Allison's superhero power as an Umbrella Academy sibling is also very cool, but hers is vocal. She says, I heard a rumor that, and whatever she says, baby, it's happening. So be careful if that is the lead-in. And it's very cool, but because it's vocal-based, sound-based, remember Vanya's skill is sound-based, and all of the other siblings made her feel, by proxy of being brought up in the home where the father made Vanya think and everyone else think she didn't have any powers, there's this like weird dynamic between Vanya, Sound Sib, and the rest of them. So Allison's power being kind of sound vocally based. At the end of season 1, if you haven't seen it, Allison and Vanya are the only 2 female Umbrella Academy siblings. So although they are estranged, like many of them are at points in season 1, they have a unique bond because they try to always be there for each other, no matter what. Because They're sisters. They're the only two sisters. But season 1, again, Vanya doesn't know her power, that she has that power or how powerful her power is. So when she gets upset, baby, it's bad. She got upset with Allison in season 1, and Allison tried to do her little rumoring. Vanya was not having it. Vanya went, like, I think that's all she had to do. And cut her sister's throat from, like, bloop, no more speaking for you, friend. And you think maybe she's dead, but in season 1, the other super sibs find her, patch her up. She's not dead. And that's one of those reasons I went like, shouldn't she be dead? Do they all heal? Maybe not, because Ben died, clearly.
That was like the biggest surprise for me, I think, of that whole season, was when her neck got slit. And I thought for sure she was dead. I was actually quite surprised. Like, I almost felt, I'm glad that she was alive, for sure. But I was like, how did she survive that? I was just like, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, because I had the same thoughts, I was like, well, Ben clearly died. Maybe if something bad enough happens and causes enough damage, like most superheroes, even if you heal fast, if they like separate your body quarter and, draw and quarter it, maybe you're not bouncing back from that. So I had questions, but all that to say, that's what happened to Allison in season 1. That's how we leave her. So even when she jumps and is dropped into 1963 solo after that group jump, she is still bandaged up and cannot speak, which also means she couldn't use her superpower if she wanted to in the 1963 times. Blah, 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 blah. Jumping back to current season, current story point. Allison's storyline in 1963, she has found another beautiful Black activist. It's the heart of one of the civil rights movements, the most notable one, of course. It's prior to JFK's assassination, so we all kind of know what's happening in history. Racial tensions are high. Sit-ins and boycotts of buses, sit-ins of counters and diners of Black people being, spit on, beat, arrested, whatever. All of those things are happening. She has found 1963 love with the most handsome man who is also an activist, and so you see this is what she's been up to. Maybe she's been there about a year. Something.
Well, I think I kind of get the timelines mixed up, but
yeah.
my memory is like she lands there in 1960. Then episode 1 is 1963, so she's been there for 3 years. So she's been, and I think she's been married to her husband for almost a year. I think he says at a certain point in a later episode. And in the meantime, I think in the time that she's been in the 60s, she has not, when the season starts, my understanding is that she has not used her abilities.
Yes, correct. I think they clarify that either later in this episode, but I think it's actually later in the season, because she says, like, I haven't used them since I dropped here. So it's been years since you used it. And like we touched on, after healing post-group jump and getting used to her voice again and choosing not to talk for a while, and in a flashback, we learn that she's more encouraged to talk once she can again, when she starts falling in love and is courted by her now in this timeline husband. So they're super cute. You love them immediately. They're these beautiful Black queen and king of a power couple, and they're active parts of sit-ins and racial equality and social justice movements that are part of the civil rights movement at this time in history and in season 2. It's delivered with such careful nuance from the writers, which I love, because, and this is gonna get interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because their thoughts from season 1 as well. And it's almost like, let's talk about this thing. That's the elephant in the room. Because there's a beautiful nuance in the storytelling of how you see and find out about Allison and her husband and their like beautiful love. But in this scene, one of the beautiful little gestures that you see as part of their relationship is she's always looking up at the moon. You hear him say. Side note, one of the super siblings, who is technically a brother of hers, is this super strong guy named Luther, who we'll talk about in a second, because he and Allison kind of are in love as young adult / vigilante sibling fighter people. And it's kind of like a known thing. They've never, I don't think, ever done anything or like actually been a couple, but there's definitely a romantic interest that we know about in season 1 between Allison and Luther, which is cute because he cute, she cute. You're like, I want to root for you. You're not like biologically related, but kind of your brothers and sisters. Anyways, through that is contextually important in my next point because of the nuance of how the husband that Allison is now married to in 1963, who she is noted by his dialogue to look up at the moon often. And Luther, super strong bro, lived on the moon by request of his father. On the other side of the moon, there's like a base that his father had or whatever for like a year or something in season 1 to like get away. And he like totally detached as an adult person once they had all broken up. And so that's why she's looking at the moon. He doesn't know that, but again, he doesn't know that. And he's so sweet. He gives her this book, which I think it's like, I can't give you the moon and the stars, but you're always looking at the moon. It's like a book of poems or something about the moon or the stars, right?
Yeah.
And you see her have this moment of reflection, and you know she's thinking of Luther, not only because of this elephant in the room romantic connection that is kind of touched on, but not for real, but also because of the fact that none of them have seen each other since each of them have been dropped into the place and time in the timeline, because they're all still split up. Some it's only been a year, some it's been 3 years, some it's been a few days, but they're all split up. So you see her have this dual moment of missing Luther for dual reasons, but it's still very cute. I love their little family, it's just the two of them, but I love it. In finding out about Allison, they have a meeting, Black activist meeting at the beauty shop that Allison works at. She sweeps the floors at in 1963. Black owned, Black employed, Black boss. Her husband, the beauty shop owner, and these other activists are planning the sit-in that they'll do leading up to JFK visiting Texas, which is happening in a few days in this storyline and in history. And then this racist asshole white guy knocks on the door. You want to take it from there? I can keep going forever, but then the channel's just me.
Yeah, so it's the middle of a meeting and knock on the door. White guy that I guess owns other property on the street or the block. And, you know, he's clearly trying to provoke them so we can call the cops on them just moments later. And so Allison, you know, engages with him by essentially kicking him to the curb, I think quite literally maybe, or pushing him.
I wrote down serving him a slice.
Yeah. And I don't know if we see the consequences of that in the first episode necessarily, but that does happen. And you know, just like once that happens, you know, so
man,
yeah,
Black people on a mission with malicious intent. Yeah. Watch out.
Yeah. And I think after that we move back to Diego.
Yes.
Who is escaping from.
Oh wait, no, right before that. There's a sliver of a scene right before that. It jumps back to Vanya at the farm at the same night though, because again, they're in the same town, but different parts of town and have been there for different lengths of time. So it's a very small jump to the farm the same night as that sit-in meeting, a different part of town, but we're at the farm. And it's a very small scene where we see another layer of the relationship between Vanya, who still doesn't remember anything, and the wife that hit her with the car, the wife of the asshole husband. And the wife's hair is down. That's like 1963 code for like, I'm relaxed. I guess that's just any year code for I'm relaxed, like, right? Because she's not put together. She's not in her like housewife gear. They are out in like the barn. The husband is not there. The kid's not there. I think Vanya wakes up and sees the wife smoking in the kitchen, but then it cuts to the barn. They're smoking together, talking. You see them bonding and kind of creating a special bond, which I think is important.
Oh, she has a really good line. She's like, women don't have sides. They have secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Make it a shirt.
Yeah. which is interesting because it's just like, you know, as is the case with a lot of characters in this movie, you're like, oh, so there's much more, to me anyway, what I took away from that is like, oh, there's much more to this person than perhaps we know, you know. Anytime someone says I have secrets, you got to believe them. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, all right, warning, you're heard, all right? Like, I'm not, I get it. You got secrets, all right.
Yes. Yes.
And then I think we go back to Diego, correct?
Yeah.
And so when he was initially being subdued several scenes before, he managed to grab, you know, a paper clip, something. He grabbed something.
Right after that group meeting scene,
Yeah.
he purposely, psych ward friend Lila dared him to do whatever, and he told some story to some person in the room just so that he could get close enough to steal whatever that was, like a pen or something.
Yeah, and so he uses that to escape. Just as he escapes, the three time-hopping hitmen show up at the psych ward, take out, I don't know if it's the warden or the security guard or whoever. The alarm goes off. Diego's leaving, and surprise, surprise, Lila's right there with him. And they're on their way out, fighting. It's tough because it's like they're fighting the psych ward guards, they're fighting police, as well as the three hitmen. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of happening as music is playing by, what's the guy's name? By Mel Torme, song Coming Home Baby by Mel Torme. Real quick thing about Mel Torme, who sings that song. I like that song, but Mel Torme, you know him probably more so from the song, the Christmas song, which is chestnuts roasting on an open fire. So he's got that deep, velvety voice.
Yeah,
anyway.
So smoky.
Yeah, smoky voice. So Mel Torme, right, he was in this movie musical that I like a lot called Good News with Peter Lawford and June Allison. Anyway, I'm just a fan of his work. And by his work, I mean that one movie that I liked him in. This one song that they used in the Umbrella Academy. But it's like when they played that song, it's like, I like that song. I like that singer. And yeah, so Diego and Lila get into a mess, but they successfully managed to escape. But now they're kind of like on the run together.
There's one in that like escape from the guards and the psych ward and three bad bros, hitmen. There is a moment because you go, I know how and why Diego is, because he dislocates his shoulder because he wakes up in a padded room in a straitjacket, dislocates his shoulder, uses that thing to pick the lock, and almost immediately like runs into a guard, of course, And he's still so out of it because they injected him with all that stuff. So he doesn't have the entirety of his strength or clarity. And almost immediately, Lila is there, which I think is interesting. And you go, how did she get out? Because she's out there in the hall and she saves him from one of the first guards he runs into because he's so weak he can't fight. And so that's one thing. One thought that I had was like, how did she get out? Who are you? How do you do these things? And so I start to have suspicions about her. I could tell they were dropping seeds of a connection early on, but now I'm like, you are conveniently there during this escape, right? How did you know and how did you get out? We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
But you also see the Diego character not very quickly, and he's compromised by this seed of connection that's starting, because he, though he doesn't want to acknowledge it, you can kind of tell, knows that that's happening too. But there's this moment where they make it past the first set of guards, past the first encounter with the three bad bros in the hallway, and they make it down to the corridors in the basement. And they run into more guards. I think they're pointing guns at Diego or something, like focused on him. And Lila comes through with some moves that are not only impressive and get the job done and get those guards out of the way. There are two. She does it very skillfully. It's not just like, oh, you did something that worked. It's like something engaged, and you see it as the viewer. And Diego, even though he's out of it, in his dialogue, he notices it too. And I think that picking up on, because he goes, how'd you learn to fight like that? And she drops a very important later on breadcrumb. Her answer is true, but it is vague enough to not bring attention. And when he goes, how did you learn to fight like that? Or how did you know how to do that? No, how did you learn how to fight like that? Or who taught you how to fight like that? Something like that. Because her answer is my mom. One might not think much of that, but tune in a couple episodes from now, because that comes to be very significant.
Yeah. And I think, is their escape, is their escape kind of like the last moment of that episode? I think that may conclude episode 1.
Yes, I think they don't run into any more like guards. They escape and make it out of the building. They're still on the run, of course, but that's the last thing we see in that scene is them escaping. And then we cut to Luther. It cuts to like, I don't want to say, it's not a strip club. It cuts to like a burlesque type nightclub, stage, mic, gentlemen watchers, VIP area. Did I jump? I think I jumped too soon. I didn't jump too soon, but I left out, I think, something very important. Before we see the club, we do jump to Luther, but the jump is immediately to this like underground fight club scene where we see Luther taking the hits. And Luther is strong brother, and that he's like big. He's got all the muscles, but he's also like 8 feet, 7 feet.
Yeah, this, I gotta say, love the show. This is the one storyline that I just could not buy. Why? He's an undefeated fighter, and he's 8 feet and built truly like a gorilla.
Like,
why would you bet against him? That's what I couldn't understand. They're like, in all the show, when they show him fighting, it's like he takes a bunch of hits, he looks to his boss, the boss like gives the nod, and then he turns the fight. It's clear he's throwing like the first several rounds because he can win by knockout at the end.
Yeah.
It's just like, how does not word immediately spread about like there's this 8-foot man who's 5 feet across, and he wins every fight with ease. How are you gonna be like, oh, but like this might be the time that he loses, or oh wait, he's getting beat up, time to bet against him? It's like, no, you don't do that. He's clearly superhuman, and this guy's been like being like, yeah, just make him believe you're gonna lose. I would never believe.
Never.
Even if you knocked him out, it's not like he couldn't get back up. Anyway, so I don't know why that made me so upset. But it was something that just didn't make any sense to me. I was just like, huh? Why even waste the time? Just win the fight.
Yeah.
Anyway, I couldn't really buy that. I couldn't.
I think it was a borrowed belief in that in a different series or movie, right? In a different storyline.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because if you're not 8 feet tall, looking like a gorilla, and like his skin looks tough. He's super hair, like like you said, there's no way one would be made to believe at any point, due to any level of his exhaustion or the duration of any length of fight, that anyone would ever beat him. Ever. So it is like a borrowed belief from a different world where, get someone who doesn't look like that, who can take the punches and then turn it on, then you got something that I can get on board with. That's been done before, right? And in ways that work. But Luther, I'm sorry, he's never going to lose unless he just never hits back ever. And even then, he's probably not gonna fall. So I'm with you so much there. Lest that is our plot for Luther, and basically what he's been doing has been like his boss, that aforementioned boss who like stands off to the side and gives him the nod to like, all right, finish him. Is I guess and it might be a person from history that I just don't know of, like a big club owner from the past.
He's the person that shot Lee Harvey Oswald, apparently, but I'm blanking on his name. Jack Ruby. So, yeah. So he's like, and the quick, like, Wikipedia description of him is he's an American nightclub owner. He fatally shot Lee Harvey Oswald in our world, in our timeline. Yeah. So.
I knew it was something like that. I was like, I can't recall his actual name, but I think it's someone of historical significance. Yeah. And Luther in this season 2 storyline in 1963 works for him as like, not his right-hand man as in like in business, but his chauffeur, his bodyguard, his go-to underground fight ring, make big bundles of bucks quick person. And when he wins, you see him just hand the wad of winning cash to his boss. But also just like works in the club when his boss is in the club hanging out in VIP areas, keeping shenanigans and folks about shenanigans away from his boss while protecting the people in the club. So he has a job. And we come to find out, not in this episode, but I think later in the season, that he lives here too, in some back room, side room, or associated with the boss allowance apartment or unit very nearby. And this piece of the episode is kind of the last thing of the episode, is catching up with Luther. And it's not very long, because Luther is talking to one of the like cigarette girls equivalents, waitresses at this club. Seems real nice. You can tell she's cute, but his demeanor is, I'm not interested. I work here. I care for you, but not in that way. And she mentions, I'm just worried about the kid by the stage. Oh, missed something important. Gotta look at my notes. all of that is still true, but before she says she's worried about the kid by the stage, we see that this is all one day, this episode. And this is still the same night of the awkward dinner where the farm husband was mansplaining to Vanya and the wife. Still the same night we see them later smoking in the barn, enjoying each other's company. Also correlates, same day, because mansplaining husband after dinner said he was going back to the office. He is in this scene. He went to the club. He's drunk at this club/bar. Because that does come full circle in this episode, and we see him there. He's drunk, and Luther has to engage with him because he's this drunk husband and father guy is bothering the boss. So Luther goes and basically like gets rid of him, but you see that he has dropped his wallet in his drunkenness, which is key. But Luther gets him outside. He is at a payphone. Oh no, that's later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think that happens later. So Luther gets him out. We may not know that the wallet has dropped yet. So excuse me for getting ahead of myself. But it is important to know that that husband from Vanya's farm scene family is at this bar, and Luther engages with him.
I think they show the wallet dropping as he's let out. They show it. It isn't discovered right away, but they show it dropping.
Okay,
So.
cool. Because that is fairly significant in a connective tissue that is around the corner. So yes. Then the chick is like talking to Luther and says she's worried about some kid by the stage. And you go, kid by the stage? But remember, 5 is in this like kid resembling body. So 5 is there. 5 has also not only found Diego, but found Luther. And he's, I guess, he knows that Luther is going to hear there's a kid there and find him. And lo and behold, this chick tells Luther. He goes and almost immediately is like, knows that it's 5. And you see them have this exchange where Luther's like, what are you doing here? Where have you been? You stranded us here, or not us, because he doesn't know anybody else is there. You stranded me here, man. Where have you been? He's like, I'm sorry. And like he's been doing, when he finds one of his super sibs, tries to catch Luther up with the Cliff Notes version of the apocalypse has followed us. We've got 10 days. I need your help. We have to find the rest of us. Let's go. And Luther is like, not interested. And he like turns away. And you can tell he's just like, just trying to live and survive in 1963. And for anyone who's seen the mental turmoil that Luther goes through and is still seemingly going through in 1963 season 2, you see this like active effort to not engage. I'm over it. I just want to be me. I don't want to be a part of a super fighting sibling team. And you think, oh fuck, Luther is, what is he not gonna join the team? This is like the end? What? It's just episode 1. I think it kind of ends there.
I think so, yeah.
Because every episode kind of ends with its own little cliffhanger. Anything else about that I didn't get in there about this last scene, or anything else in season 2?
No, I think that's just a bit, yeah, the most of it, yeah.
I think, and not to belabor on for much longer, but I find it interesting that, not that Luther's boss in history is a bad guy. He actually kind of did a good thing, I guess, depending on who you ask. But he's portrayed as like not a nice guy, but he takes care of Luther in a way, and not in the way that Luther's like Scrooge McDuck style adopted billionaire dad did, and this like almost oppressive, you're not a child to me, although he did adopt them. That, like you said early on in the episode, he treats it like a business transaction. He buys them because he knows that they are profitable, and he has a goal of creating a superhero team, right? That it's part of his bigger picture, and it's less about them being his kids and more about them being his idea, his superhero team. And so the juxtaposition between, God, I love that word, between not Jack Harlow, that's like a White Stripe singer or something. What's his name?
Sorry, which person?
The boss?
Oh, Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby, yes. I think I named like a White Stripes lead singer.
Oh, Jack White.
Wait, I don't know what I said, but yes, Jack Harlow is correct, right?
Oh.
Is that what you said, Harlow?
Oh, Jack White from the White Stripes.
No, what is his actual name in the season 2?
Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby. See, I still got it wrong. Oh my God, I got all the wrong ones in my head now. Jack Ruby. Not. It's just an interesting kind of relationship that Luther clearly has with adopted billionaire style dad, which is not the best one, although he's seen to be that dad's favorite, or like number one. But the Jack Ruby almost caretaker father figure relationship, it's destructive, and he's kind of using him just to get that Fight Club money and for protection, right? But he also kind of cares that, and I think there's such a healthy tension in that. I don't even know if tension is the right word. I think there's an interesting tension, and that's a tongue twister. I think that there is an interesting tension and also an interesting correlation between both of those relationships with Luther. My 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah, it's really great.
All right, well, each episode is a lot, y'all, so season 2, come at me, bro. I'm so excited. That was it for this episode of Did You See That?
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe. I gotta learn how to put buttons places, but I'm still putting words. Subscribe and like our channel. But yeah, watch our videos. If you're in any of the things that we're talking about and you're like wanting to support your local Black person, we Black, come on our show, you guys. I know you're big and famous, but do it anyways. All right, bye.
Yeah.
Did you see that?